In the interviews I've done of either challengers or incumbents for North Canton Council, one of the descriptions of the mayor's office in North Canton, and I've asked each of the interviewees so far, is what's the appropriate relationship between the mayor, the chief executive of the city, and the legislative branch. And one of the descriptions that's come from, not all, but some of the quarters, is that in North Canton, the mayor's kind of a ceremonial person, and this is a strong council, legislative city here in North Canton, and so that's the relationship. But do you agree with that, or do you think that's too narrow? Or
yeah, I think it's a little bit. I think it's a very narrow perspective. You're ceremonial in the respect of, when you have ceremonies in the city, you're responsible for that. But ultimately, I am responsible for all of the cabinet members that I have appointed, the city administrator, the fire chief, police chief, all of the employees that we appoint. So, I think it really comes down to authority and responsibility. And so when you have the authority to make those decisions, you also have the responsibility that goes along with that. And whenever those two aren't balanced out correctly, then you have problems. So what we try to do is bring the best possible talent into each position as leaders and then also employees. And when we get excellent talent like we have right now, there is no doubt right now the city of North Canton is operating in the most cost-efficient and effective manner that we ever have been in the history of the city. And the reason I say that is I know that certainly when I started, we've been operating at the most optimum level. But then when you couple that with the technology that's available over the past 12 years, there's no doubt that we're more efficient than we've ever been.
Going forward, what is the thing that is in your mind is where the mayor of North Canton can make a major contribution, whether it's yourself or whether it's your opponent, in taking North Canton to greater heights?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I've learned, Marty, is over the years is that in the beginning there's such a steep learning curve. Anytime that you take over any new organization, you have to learn the organization. You have to understand the people. I had an advantage because I served as the city administrator, so I was appointed by the mayor to run the city. I was in charge of the police, the fire, the EMS.
And in that time,
turn this off.
No problem. In that time, it wasn't as if David held as city administrator, while cooperative, you would take exception to the mayor, right?
Myself? Oh, right. If there was, I've learned, because when I first started as the administrator, we were under Ohio EPA, US EPA investigation due to the water contamination. So that was a real challenging time because we had water contamination in our water system, and we didn't know where that was coming from. And as it turned out, there was a disgruntled employee that had contaminated one of the monitoring wells, which certainly caused a scare, but we were able to resolve over that year. And then we also had to address a few areas that...
So you and the mayor had differences over that?
No, we actually were in very much an agreement on
Where
that.
did the differences come in?
I think the differences came in, probably it was more of a transition from how we were operating administratively. When I first came in, and my whole experience has been working in the operating room over at Altman Hospital and Mercy Medical, bringing in equipment into the surgical procedures, I understand the importance of compliance. If you're not in compliance with the various regulations, the state and federal regulations, OSHA, PERP in the case of public service, then you're going to have problems. And so I was very, very rigid as far as making sure that we were in compliance. And I think that was an area that was a struggle because oftentimes I would check with the finance director, I would check with the law director, I would check with the various department heads. And so my decision making on the, I did most of the work on the front end, and sometimes I don't think that I was moving as quickly as the mayor would like at that time.
Okay, and so you have a track record of being a team player,
Yeah, absolutely.
but a person who, when you see that things aren't as you think they ought to be, will take exception. Now, as mayor, do you abide people in your administrations differing with David Held?
Oh, absolutely. When you look at the people that I've hired, we have a lot of strong personalities that are inside of the administration. You certainly do not want people that are just going to do what you ask them to do just because you're in charge. Really, what you want are individuals that are the best available talent for that position, and you want the truth. You want them to tell you how you can make their department or that service the best. What was interesting, when I first started as mayor, we had a staff meeting, and we brought all the department heads in. And we have regular staff meetings, throughout the year. And that's typically Mike Grimes that manages those meetings. But in the beginning, I called all the department heads together, and we asked them, what is the most important service that we provide to our residents? And when we started out with the fire chief, what do you think he said? The fire department.
Sure.
That's the most critical service that you have in the city. We got to the police chief. He said, well, wait till somebody's breaking into your house, and then we'll see what the most important service is. Then we got to the water department, and they're like, well, wait till you don't have clean, fresh drinking water. And so we went around, and with each one of the departments, you could identify where each one of those individuals took a lot of pride and were able to represent how they felt their service was the best. When you're the mayor, it's our job to bring all those individuals together. And I compare it to like being a conductor of an orchestra. You're making sure that all of these very well-talented musicians are playing in unison and creating beautiful music. But I'm not playing the instruments myself. It's just making sure you have the best violinist and the best individual that can play the cello and the trumpet and bringing all those players together and then getting them to work together. So that's really where my expertise comes in, and that's what we strive for, is trying to get everybody to work in unison.